Hey nerds, what's up? Today's video is going to be my walkthrough of my Crown of Midnight book and all of the annotations that I made during my reread for this. If you didn't know, me and Brittni from Brittni's Book Find are rereading one of the Sarah J. Maas Throne of Glass books every month. This month is August and we are reading Heir of Fire, and our live show for Heir of Fire just passed. Our next live show will be mid-September for Queen of Shadows. So that's what's going on as far as where the read along is. But yeah, let's get into this. I read this back in June or July. This is going into some of what we already knew about from the Assassin's Blade novellas. So when she is betrayed by Arobynn Hamel, the way that they do it is by capturing Sam, and then Wesley, who was Arobynn's like second in command, he tries to warn her and say it's a trap, but she thinks that he's trying to tell her not to go because she won't win, and she's like, no, I'm gonna save Sam, or because it shouldn't matter. But then Wesley was killed by Arobynn because he tried to help her. So then on the next page, his name was Sam. I don't even know where they buried him. I don't even know who I would ask about it. That's the first time that she's mentioned Sam in the actual series to anyone. We've only heard her think about him before this. Then some more world stuff, but something about the figure standing between the open library doors made some ancient primal part of her send a warning pulse so strong she didn't take another step. It sniffed at her, a huffing animal sound, and the eye of Elena was growing. Then something funny. Oh, don't be so pathetic, the skull huffed, its eyes narrowing. I'm attached to this door. I cannot harm you. This is the first time that Mort speaks. Mort is one of my favorite characters in this novel. But the king cannot erase old spells made with older powers like the word marks. Those ancient spells still hold, especially ones that imbue life. So he's explaining how come this magical spell is working to make him real, even when the world of magic has been disappeared by the king. Elena had said that she was a warrior too, but her armor was nowhere to be seen. Where had it gone? Cain and the Ritterak were just the beginning of the threat to Aurelia, Mort said. Yee! Okay, so then, it's been too late for years now, don't you understand? Where was Elena 10 years ago when there was a whole host of heroes that she could have her pick up? Celaena's just mad that she has to be the one to do anything because she's scared. Mort just glowered at her. You're that selfish, that cowardly. Why did you come down here tonight, Celaena? To help us all or just to help yourself? Elena told me about you and about your past. And I just love that he calls her out. Like, she needs a big kick in the head to get her shit together. Archer asked, does Arobynn know you're back? He has eyes everywhere. I'd be surprised if he didn't know. We haven't met Arobynn yet in this series. We've only met him in the Assassin's Blade. Lena, he demanded. Of all things we said back there, that is what bothered you the most? It did. We're to keep him. It bothered the hell out of him. And this whole series has a host of like territorial bullshit, but it really bugs me when Chaol is being territorial for some reason, and when Dorian does it. When Rowan does it, it's less so, and I think that's because it is explained away later in this series. But Dorian and Chaol just like get out. Moving on to page 65. Dorian couldn't possibly know what his father was up to. No, he couldn't act the way he did if he knew that his father had such sinister intent, and maybe he shouldn't ever know. And so this is Celaena thinking about Dorian and like, should she tell the prince about what she knows about the king and the fact that she knows that Dorian definitely doesn't know about it and all that stuff. And I can't wait for later books. Mia is a small, insignificant port city. It means he's got little to lose and a lot to gain, and that makes people dangerous, ruthless. He'll use you if he can. And that is talking about Roland, the cousin. Then we go and visit Kaltain. Celaena goes and visits Kaltain in the dungeon. Kaltain tucked her arms into the folds of her skirt. The Night Watch looks the other way when Parrington visits, implying that he probably is raping her. When they come down here, they never tell me what they want. I don't even remember. It's all just fragments, shards of broken mirror, each gleaming with its own individual image. And she's just talking about like what they're doing to her. Like, they're doing something other than just creepy Parrington stuff. There's like obviously something going on with this and like what's happening at Morath, which we don't know anything about yet, but like we're getting just tidbits so far. Before Terrasen fell, its report was one that set the example. Chaol stood in the hallway, his bronze eyes traveling down the front of her dress, then up again. You're not wearing that. She snorted and walked past him, deliberately giving him the view of the far more provocative back. Oh, so yes, this is when she's going to go visit Archer to get information, and again, Chaol is doing the stupid territorial bullshit that I don't like, and yeah, so that's that's what's happening.
She says, I'll see you tomorrow. He stiffened as if he'd been struck, his teeth flashing. What do you mean tomorrow? And that stupid, bright anger took over. She gave him a slow smile. You're a smart boy. Figure it out yourself, stalking down the steps to the carriage. And I just... I love her. Do you want to come inside? She swallowed home. Don't you want a night off? It's immensely different when it's my choice.
So what we find out from Archer is that he is a male escort, essentially. And so that is what she's implying about wanting the night off. And I, forgot that this was this character. So she goes to this party at the king's house. And this beautiful violinist is playing old songs. Celaena just loves them. And the violinist says out loud, this song is in honor of the esteemed royal family who invited me here tonight. And the song was an ancient legend, an old poem actually, one Celaena hadn't heard since the childhood and never set to music. It was a bold song to sing, dedicating it to the king's family was even bolder. And so the singer goes on, spinning the ageless story of the years that the fae woman served those kings and lords and the loneliness that consumed her bit by bit. Celaena didn't know when she began crying. Somehow she'd skipped a breath and it set her lips wobbling. And then shortly after that, we find out that that singer was murdered.
We come back to a conversation between Nehemia and Celaena. What excuses can I make that will convince them that my friendship with the king's champion is in any way an honorable thing? How can I convince them that your soul isn't rotted? I won't deny that you've suffered, Alentia, but there are thousands more who have suffered and suffered more. Celaena takes Nehemia down to where Mort is, and Mort says, brought a friend? Nehemia yelped. Celaena greeted the bronze skull-shaped door knocker. Hello, Mort. Ancient spells and nonsense, cutting off Mort as he began to recite the story of how King Brannon had created him. Shut it, Celaena said, and flung open the tomb door, letting Nehemia inside. Save it for someone who cares. So then an eye no larger than her palm was etched into the wall. You can only see the face when you stand on the stag, is what Nehemia figures out. Mort says, I lie to you. Oh, to you? Oh, I couldn't lie to you. You asked me whether it makes sense, and I said no. You must learn to ask the right questions before you can receive the right answers. I'm a door knocker, and it's not in my nature to make promises. So then we come back to another party, and Celaena is supposed to be on duty with Chaol. And she goes and dances. And she says, it's your fault. You made me come out here, and someone left the balcony door open so I could hear all that lovely music. The waltz was still playing, filling the frozen air around them with sound. So you should really reconsider who is to blame. It was like putting a starving man in front of a feast and telling him not to eat. Finally, Chaol, after this conversation, says, dance with me. And he held his hand out to her, and things are different now. Again, another layered statement she couldn't begin to sort through now. Celaena had asked Chaol to dance at the Yulmus ball, and he had said no, and so she's making fun of him for saying yes now, and he says things are different now, and she doesn't understand what that means. We move on to Dorian's point of view, watching Celaena and Chaol dance, and Nehemia comes up. Nehemia was easily the most stunning woman in the ballroom, and he hadn't failed to notice how many men and women had been watching her all night. She says to Dorian, we will always stand apart. We will always have responsibilities. She's having this conversation with Dorian, and he couldn't tackle Calcula, not without causing a lot of trouble for both himself and Nehemia. When you took her from Endovier, Nehemia asked, did you think twice about the thousands you left behind? The slaves in those camps have people who love them just as much as you loved my friend. So then Nehemia stared him down for a long moment before nodding. You have power in you, Prince, more power than you realize. When the time comes, when it awakens, do not be afraid. I will help you. My question is, how does Nehemia know that Dorian has magic when none of us have, even he doesn't know it yet, I don't think. What? They never really explain, why or how Nehemia knows shit, even though she's just a human. It's not like she's fae, so what's going on with that? I don't know. Then we switch to Dorian being in a council meeting, and Roland is trying to Roland is talking, and he says Calcula can't support the current number of slaves. There are too many to even fit in the mines as it is. But slightly to the north, right along to the southern edge of Oakwald, our men have discovered an iron deposit that seems to cover a large sea. So he's trying to open up another slave encampment. Roland shrugs and says, they're slaves. Why shelter them when they can sleep in the mines? Then we wouldn't have to waste time bringing them in and out every day. He's just such a horrible person. So then Dorian said to his father, looked across the table to Roland and Mullison, how about you spend a year in Calcula, and when you're done, you can sit here and tell me about your plans for expansion. Yes. He's getting so mad and he felt freezing cold. The stone cracked under his hand. This is after he has left the council meeting. The window exploded, glass showering everywhere as Dorian dropped into a crouch and covered his
So this is
head.
the moment where he finally sees his power. So this is what I don't understand. It's like, how does Nehemia know?
So then we come to a moment where the king is talking to Kale. Princess Nehemia needs to be watched. Her influence is starting to be felt in these halls. Just because he was friendly with Nehemia, just because she was Celaena's friend, it didn't change anything. And so he says that you have my word, and he decides to essentially spy on her. Great. Awesome. We love it.
The next scene, Dorian, Kale, and Celaena are going to this like fair that has popped up near the kingdom, and there is a Yellow Legs witch, which is an Iron Teeth clan member, and she is like selling her like telling of the future. He asks, care to have your fortune told, girl, to Celaena? And Dorian blinked, then blinked again at the sight of the woman's teeth. They were razor sharp like a fish's and made of metal of iron. Some time has passed. It's a new day, but I'm gonna keep going on our Crown of Midnight flip through. So let's
Moving on to page 166, we find out that today is the 10th anniversary of Celaena's parents' death, and that's why she like isn't speaking to anyone and isn't coming out and all that stuff. Nehemia,
I am under the impression that somehow Nehemia knows who Celaena is, like that she is Aelin, and I'm not sure why she knows or how she knows, but like she knows.
So then we get this flashback that is of Celaena at Endovier the day that she decided to try to run for it, and like we find out she was basically trying to kill herself. She was still laughing when the world went back and her fingers hit the rocky ground barely an inch away from the wall, because she knew that the slavers would try to kill her if she tried to escape. However, because of the king's decree for her, they didn't try to kill her particularly. For you, I'd say the chocolate cake is most definitely a need. And this was Celaena and Nehemia talking to each other. We get some world building here. If the heir of Terrasen, Aelin Galathinius, had lived, would she have become a friend and ally? His bride, perhaps? And this is Dorian. He met her once, and then he talks about the time that he met her when they were young. And it's just like, Now it is Kale's birthday, and Celaena takes him out, and the roof of the apothecary was an enclosed glass greenhouse. It's the Fey Woman's Garden from Rena Goldsmith's song, he said softly. His golden eyes were bright. He says, no one has ever done anything like this for me. And it's just this cute little moment. Finally, Celaena is honest with Kale and tells him that she's been tricking the king. He says, I'll go with you. And though he hadn't asked, they both knew those words held a question. They were inside her rooms, and then at her bedroom door, he paused, and she took his hand to lead him in. Are you sure? He asked. But now there was no doubt, no shred of fear or uncertainty, as if every moment between her and Kale had been a step in a dance that had led to this threshold. And so then they have sexy times. Hello. Moving on to chapter 24, the long lifespans of the Fae. This is the conversation between Yellowlegs and Dorian. Yellowlegs witch says that she's not sure if she's from Fae or Valg. We never learned which one. She says to Dorian, your kind of magic is gone, yes, but there are other forgotten powers that work. And he's coming to ask her, like, for advice on how he has magic, basically.
So then, because Celaena and Kale had sex once, now they're just doing it like bunnies, and they're having sex all the time.
His eyes drifted to the small wooden door just a few feet away, a broom closet. She followed his attention.
So she sees this broom closet. You're going to have to be very quiet, he says to her. She reached the knob and opened the door, tugging him inside. I have a feeling that I'm going to be telling you that in a few moments. Schmutty. These are like the moments where you're like, new adult, why isn't that a genre? We switch perspectives, and now we're with Celaena and Nehemia. And Nehemia asks her to promise me you'll help me free Elwë from him, meaning the king. She's like, and then Nehemia says, there's no other way. Elwë must be freed, and with you helping me, we could start to gather a host. And Celaena interrupts, no. But Celaena shook her head. No, she repeated. Not for all the world would I help you muster an army against him. Elwë has been hit hard by the king, but you barely got a taste of the kind of brutality he unleashed elsewhere. You raise a force against him and he'll butcher you, and I won't be a part of that. Nehemia, of course, is trying to argue with her. She's saying that one person was chosen by Queen Elena. Folly to fight for what is right for people who cannot stand up for themselves. Like, what are you talking about? Celaena says there's no hope in standing against him, not now, not ever. That was a truth that she had slowly been realizing. Then Nehemia says that there can never be peace, not while he reigns, and she says, I didn't realize that you were a coward. And then Selena's fingers clenched into fists. When your people are lying dead around you, don't come crying to me. And that's the last thing that they ever say to each other. We'll get there in a second. Ugh. We get this weird scene in chapter 25, and I just put question marks around it because I don't know who the queen or the princess is, but it's like one of them has to break. Only then can it begin. The princess says, I know, but the prince isn't ready. It has to be her. And then, do you understand what I'm asking of you? And they say yes, and then do what needs to be done. The princess nodded and walked out of the tomb. She paused on the threshold, the darkness beyond beckoning to her, and turned around back to the queen. She won't understand, and when she goes over the edge, there will be nothing to pull her back. Oh my god, I just realized what the fuck this scene is. Okay, so the way that this is written the first time and the second time around, I did not understand what was happening. But this is Nehemia talking to Elena, and Elena says that, you know, you've got to do what you have to do, and the princess, Nehemia, says that she won't understand, and when she goes over the edge, there will be nothing to pull her back. But Elena trusts, oh my god, this is so emotional. Elena trusts that she will, and she says she will find her way out back. She always does. So Elena and Nehemia purposely plan Nehemia's death, and I am pissed. We come back to Kale, and Kale decides that Selena, knowing or not knowing, made no difference about the fact that there is a threat to Nehemia's life, and it wouldn't make the nameless threat go away. Kale's just dumb. Who's surprised? Kale gets taken by Archer. An icy, endless rage swept through Selena, wiping away everything except the plan that she could see with brutal clarity to save him. So then we come to this scene where Selena is coming to save Kale, who's been taken by Archer. Archer hits the ground because Selena's a badass, and Archer is saying, oh no, it's a misunderstanding, it's a misunderstanding. I've been working with Nehemia to lead these people for the past 6 months. And so Selena's like, what the fuck are you talking about? After she saves Kale and kills Archer, she comes back and finds Nehemia dead, and the world slowed to the beat of an ancient, ageless drum. Selena stood in the center of the freezing bedroom, gazing at the bed and the princess's body atop it. It's just on to part 2. Here we go, the Queen's Arrow. So we come to Selena thinking about Nehemia, that vibrant, fierce, loving soul, the princess who had been called the Light of Elway, the woman who had been a beacon of hope, just like that, as if she were no more than a wisp of candlelight, she was gone. Kale comes to Selena and she says, you will never be my friend, you will always be my enemy. And she basically tries to kill Kale, and the only reason she doesn't is because Dorian. Selena's hand just stopped as though it had been frozen in midair, and he basically uses magic to save Kale. Kale and Dorian are talking about, like, who killed Nehemia, and Dorian says that it wasn't my father, I dined with my parents tonight. So they're trying to figure out, like, who could have done this. So then we switch perspectives again. Selena has been put in the dungeon because she tried to kill Kale, the captain of the guard, and so she's next to Kaltane. And we find out that Duke Parrington is going to Morath in 5 days, and Kaltane is to go with him. And then Kaltane says, if they let you out, Kaltane said, both of them staring into the blackness of their prisons, make sure that they're punished someday, every last one of them, because there's a bunch of shit that's going down. Kale comes to visit Selena, and he says he's thinking he didn't know how to fix what had been broken, both inside of her and between them, because of what has happened. We come back from Selena's perspective again, and at this point, she's been taken out of the dungeons and has been put in her bed. And she says Selena had adored Nehemia from the moment she laid eyes on her, like they were the twin souls who had at last found each other. And she's just going through this, like, a lot of grief. It's very sad, very depressing. So then we've switched perspectives again to Dorian. He's trying to, like, work with his magic, and he says he'd thrown a wall of books into the air. He could move a pin, but it didn't move. And then had her assassin in killing Nehemia also killed any hope he had of finding answers. He now knows that Nehemia is dead, and she had promised that when he realized that he had power, that she would help him. Coming back to Selena, she goes down to the dungeon and takes the sword, Brandon's sword, and Mort says, aren't you afraid of angering the gods? Selena just laughed quietly before she took the stairs, savoring each step, each moment that brought her closer to her prey, because she doesn't think that the gods are on her side. So many horrible things have happened to this girl. She figures out that Grave from book 1 is the one who was bought to murder Nehemia. So she finds him, hits the wall, blood pouring from his leg, bone had been sliced. Grave screamed, truly screamed, as he found his arms pinned to the wall by 2 daggers. And basically she tortures him because she is angry that Nehemia is dead. She takes Grave's head back to the king, and hands it to the minister, one of the councilmen. She takes the head and hands it and puts it right in front of him during a king's meeting and says, "I believe this belongs to you," releasing her grip on the hair. And basically she proves to the king in so many words that Minister Mollison was the one who bought Grave. He was the one who had Grave as his, like, champion for the game in the first book. He jumped to a scene with Kale and his dad, who is a piece of shit. And his father smiled again, a cruel, cold thing. "You disgraced your family when you gave up your title." And basically it's this long conversation about, like, how Kale stopped being a lord in order to be the captain of the guard, and that's, like, a lower position. But Kale is so happy being, like, friends and close with Dorian that he would rather do what he's doing than be his dad's, like, puppet. So then back to Celaena. She's talking about how they are having to deal with Nehemia's stuff, and the thought of strangers touching Nehemia's belongings, packing them away like any other objects, made her feel wild with grief and rage. And then we jump to Kale's perspective, and he sees Celaena down at the tower, and many of the words sounded like half sobs as Celaena sings a song, the vowels stretched by the pangs of sorrow, the consonants hardened by anger, a song of grief so old that it predated the stone castle itself. And she's singing in Fae, so he can't really understand what she's saying. We finally get some funny things in this book that's so sad. We're in Kale's perspective, and Cecil was so busy cursing that he hardly noticed when Kale stepped into his path. The librarian had to tilt his head to see Kale and then frowned at him. Kale asks if there's an issue. "Issue," Cecil waved with the shredded papers. "There are feral beasts running amok in my library. Who let that creature in here? I demand that they pay. Throw them into the dungeons. My library has become little more than a circus." It's just basically being ridiculous, and it's all because of Fleetfoot. We find out that when the nobility died, they sang their laments in the language of the Fae in Terrasen, and Kale believes that that is what Celaena was singing in. Those songs were sacred to the core. Only those of noble blood ever learned or sang Foreshadowing! And we get this scene with Celaena, and she goes to Dorian's room, and there's some funny stuff. "From this mess, I'm surprised to hear you have servants." And then he says, "I know where everything in this room is, all the books, the papers, and the moment they start cleaning, those things get hopelessly organized and tucked away, and I can never find them again. And if that isn't the definition of me, then I don't know what is, because that's my life." Okay, finally the moment I've been waiting for. Celaena goes and visits Baba Yellowlegs. And Yellowlegs tells her that it describes the 3 word keys to the open gate. There was this poem that Elena found in Brannon's dungeon or whatever it is, and that's what it describes. We find out that the word governs and forms the foundation of the world. The word keeps these realms apart. And all sorts of beings have come through the word gates over the eons, and it's a different sort of evil broke through the gates, the Valg. Using all 3 at once, the Vel Kings were able to open the word gate at will. So the riddle is a map to where the keys are hidden, and Celaena wonders what might one do with the word keys. Baba Yellowlegs says the person who holds all 3 word keys would have control over the broken word gate. The keys themselves are pure power. And then Baba Yellowlegs threatens Celaena, and so Celaena kills Baba Yellowlegs because isn't that the definition of what Celaena does with her life? So after killing Baba Yellowlegs, she goes back down and talks to Mort, and Mort says, "You may have just landed yourself in a heap of trouble. Baba Yellowlegs was a leader, a queen to her clan. The clans in the Iron Teeth Alliance will still travel about as Baba did, and when the Yellowlegs learn of their matron's death, they will muster the Blackbeards and the Blue Bloods and demand answers from the king." After this conversation, finding more out about the witches, which will definitely come up later but are not necessarily important yet, now we go back to Kale, and Kale finds Celaena's will signed 2 days before Nehemia's death, and she'd given every last copper to him. He couldn't breathe. She hadn't just done it out of generosity, but rather because she knew that if he ever lost his position, he'd have to consider going back to Aniel, and she knows that he wouldn't want to do that. And the only way that she wouldn't be able to, like, keep all of her money that she's had as champion would be if she died a traitor. And this was a hint that she had no intention of going to find Aelin Galathynius and return to Terrasen. Except she is Aelin Galathynius. So she had no plans to reclaim her lost title and pose no threat to Ardalan or Dorian. He'd been wrong yet again. He has figured out at this point that she was probably a Terrasen noble because of the Fae song, but he hasn't yet figured out, and technically we don't know yet, that she's Aelin. But, like, she's Aelin. We come back to Celaena, and she goes down this scary spiral dungeon to go searching for something that's in the library. And of course, that's really fun. So she does a spell and she realizes, oh my god, the spell truly works. She didn't want to think about all that implied. So then she goes, she gets the third cell. The iron door to the third cell has been smashed, its surface dented and folded in upon itself, but not from the outside, from the inside. And so she's going, and she's like, what the heck is happening? As she goes further and further down this spiral, we suddenly switch perspectives and get this perspective of whatever is inside of this scary spiral dungeon. And it says she had learned the marks. She had to have been a part of it, and the breaking and the shattering and then the brutal rebuilding, and since she had come here. So now this creature thing thinks that she was one of the ones who did whatever it was they did to this creature. And it had not forgotten, even in the twisted pathways of its memory, what had been done on that stone table. Now we're in Selena's perspective, and it was a man's face. It looked like, but it no longer was man. Such scarring around his mouth as though someone had ripped it open and sewed it shut and then ripped it open again. There was brown and broken teeth as it looked at her, and it was such a human expression. A lot of things happen. Dorian and Kale show up, and they have to destroy this being. The metal began to heat along the edge of the door, glowing red and then fizzing. Magic was here, but it wasn't coming for her. Dorian's eyes were scrunched in concentration. So now Selena finally knows that Dorian has magic. They realize that there were so many doors, well over 200, all locked. And both Kaltain and Nehemia had mentioned wings. And so this is the now after they've killed this beast. And they're realizing, like, this is a far bigger situation than just one
Selena's
creature.
thinking about Kaltain. They want to use me. They tricked me, Kaltain had said. The Rompier family had been listed as with a strong magical line. Perhaps that is why they wanted Kaltain. So now we're questioning, how many word keys does the king have? And if he had the others, don't you think that our doom would have come upon us already? How magic stopped? He used the word keys to stifle magic. All magic but his own. Which is why Dorian still has magic, because obviously he's his son.
Selena does something stupid and opens up a, realm to see Nehemia, and she apologizes to Nehemia, and then Nehemia says that the next time you open this door, I will not be the one who answers your call, and you will not survive the encounter, so don't do it again, you stupid Selena. Stop trying to talk to me. Selena goes and visits Archer again, and she's basically saying, you and I are built from the same cloth. We had everything taken away from us and used against us, and we knew what it was like to be raised by people like Arben and Clarice, and Nehemia never understood that. She was no better than Arben or Clarice in the end, because she wanted to use all of this information for her own gain. And then Archer says that he had to get Selena away from Nehemia, and Selena asked him, did you plant the threat? He bowed his head, because I know what you are, Selena. Arben told me one night after you went to Endovir. So freaking Archer knows that Selena is Aelin. I can't believe that. So then, so as this conversation is happening, she's pissed, and she's saying, I'm gonna tear you piece by piece. But then a guttural growl happens, and it was not Nehemia who stepped through the portal. Monsters abound! During this fight scene, Fleetfoot comes flying at the creature because he loves Selena, and I am obsessed with the dog. The dog is now not allowed to get hurt. So Fleetfoot had been left behind, her leg too injured to run when they, get away. This is also when Selena shifts for the first time and we see her as Fae. We see that the creature whirls, grabbed Fleetfoot by her injured hind leg and dragged her through the portal with it. But of course, Kale leapt off the stairs and hurtled through the misty portal after Fleetfoot, because he understands, and then Selena falls after him. This is when she shifts for the first time. She didn't care about Dorian, didn't care about anything except Fleetfoot and Kale as she sprinted down those few stairs across the hall and goes inside herself. And so then her features sharpen, her steps become longer and more graceful, and then her ears shifted into delicate points, and Selena was Fae. And So that's the moment that Kale sees Selena as a Fae and realizes, holy shit. But then, after the fight scene, everything goes fine. Fleetfoot is hurt, people are hurt, but everybody has survived. Though Selena's Fae senses were extinguished, now that she has come back through the portal, she could swear she still smelled Archer's cologne as she moved toward the sewer tunnel. Still smelled the blood on him. Archer had no idea what sort of darkness lurked inside of her, or what sort of monster she was willing to become in order to make things right. I killed her for our sake, Archer panted. Her death was a worthy sacrifice to keep her from destroying the cause. We must rise up against the king. Work Farin was a client of mine. He had a special love for pain before he was killed.
That's the one that tortured Sam.
Selena says that you're leaving Rifthold tonight, and you and all of your friends, and he breathes a sigh of relief and says, "Thank you. I knew you were a good woman." She halted, turned. "No, I'm not." Then she moved too fast for him to stand a chance. Archer's eyes went wide as she slid the dagger home, jamming it up into his heart, and she says, "But Nehemia was." The self-hatred is just so depressing. So there was nothing there, as though she'd been hollowed out. Selena just is going down a bad path right now. Selena refused to let the healer look at her until Fleetfoot's leg had been fixed.
And that's how we know she has a good heart inside, okay?
So
that's
then
how
we
we
get
know.
this conversation between Selena and Kale. My great-grandmother was Fae, and I inherited the ability to shift. When magic stopped 10 years ago, I lost my ability. I had no control over it, the shift, or the magic, or myself. But now she's stuck in her shift form, which is human.
So after that conversation, and after finding out that everyone's fine with the healer, blah, 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 we shift to a conversation that Kale has with the king, saying, "I think we should send the king's champion to Wendolyn to dispatch the royal family. Wendolyn was the last stronghold of the Fae, and the one place in Aurelia where she'd be truly safe." So he sends her to Wendolyn on purpose. Kale does, to keep her safe, because he knows.
So then we come to the king's perspective. If only Westfall had been his heir instead. The warrior's mind was sharp, and he didn't balk from doing what needed to be done. He thinks Dorian is weak.
He needed Parrington to help him find out who had opened the portal last night, a sudden shift in the world that he had felt. And then he also said, "Was it the same person who killed Baba Yellowlegs?" And I said, yes, it was Selena. And also Aelin Galathinius. So then, because in the shadows of Ferrying Gap, he'd been breeding new mounts for his gathering armies, and his wyverns still needed riders. We come to a conversation of the assassin. She smiled a cruel, twisted thing. It would be an honor to serve the crown in such a way, about going to Wendolyn to dispatch the Selena
royal
also
family.
has a conversation with Elena, and Elena has to tell her to stop running from your past, but of course, Selena doesn't know how to not run from her past
Selena
yet.
goes to Nehemia's spot and says, "I promise that I will never forgive, never forget what they did to you. I promise I will free Elway." She finally has made the promise to do something. And so she asked Dorian to look after Fleetfoot while she's gone. I just put a little heart because that's so cute. At the very end, she stood on her toes and whispers the words into Kale's ear. "It's never made any difference to me when it came to you. I'd still pick you. I'd always pick you." In regards to, like, I don't know what you'll do when you figure out what I just told you, but I will always pick you. Not
which is
true, because later we'll have the other person come in. I'm so excited.
So, nearing the
about
very
that.
end, Kale didn't understand what she told him. It was a date that had passed weeks and weeks ago, the day her parents had died. Goes into the library and finds some things. King Orlin Galathinius were found assassinated. There's no word yet about the fate of Aelin and Aelin Ashriver. Galathinius' name was written at the bottom, traced only the female line. Her great-grandmother was Faye, sister Selena had looked so uncomfortable to be receiving the golden arrow of Deanna, the arrow of Mab, because that's actually one of her aunts. Aelin Galathinius, heir to the throne of Terrasin, died today or sometime in the night. Arobin had found her on a riverbank of brightest blue ringed with gold. Her eyes, she has Ash River eyes. Selena Sardathian was Aelin Ash River Galathinius, and he had just sent her into the arms of the strongest potential allies.
I can't. It's so good. That moment, that last chapter where Kale finally figures it out, is the best part of this entire book. I think I gave this book probably a 4 out of 5 stars. These first 2 books of this series during this reread have been just mostly okay. And then, like, that ending is so good, though, and, like, that really sets up for this next book that I'm almost currently done to, so expect another vlog coming up soon for Heir of Fire. Holy shit! It ends so well. I think I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5 stars because these first 2 books, Crown of Midnight is still very much a setup. It's pretty slow paced for me. It's definitely not my favorite book in the series, so I'm not gonna give it a 5, but that ending, man, 4 out of 5 stars. It's still so good. I think it's one of my favorite chapters of the entire series. It is a really good chapter, and it is a really good cliffhanger to a book of a series, and now that I've, like, growled like that so many times, I'm gonna get off of this. I love this series so much. All of the live shows are up. I'll link all of them down below, and then I'll link my Throne of Glass one up in the cards right now for you, as well as my Assassin's Blade one. Such a beautiful book. I'm just so enjoying rereading these. So I hope you guys are enjoying these videos. Please give it a thumbs up if you are. If you would like any particular, like, change, or if you have any suggestions for how I'm doing these vlogs, since I am doing them for the entire series, please let me know. Any suggestions would be great. I'd love to hear them because this is the first time, other than the Daughter of Smoke and Bone series, that I'm doing these types of really spoilery vlogs. So I will have an Heir of Fire vlog up very soon for you, probably at the end of this month. And then our Queen of Shadows live show for this book is going to be on Brittni's channel, and it's going to be in the middle of September. The Twitter is down below at TOG Readalongs with an S at the end, in case you're curious and you want to like keep updated on the live shows and things. I hope you guys are enjoying these videos. I normally make videos every Thursday and Saturday. I'm really trying to stick to that schedule. I have not been very good about it recently, but I'm trying, and I will see you guys very soon with a new one. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Bye!